Okay, good morning. I'm Commissioner Ed Rothstein. It is the last day of August, unless August has 32 days, but I don't think so this year. So it is, cannot believe we are going into September. And public safety message is that kids are on the buses starting next week in Carroll County, so let's keep them safe, obey the laws, and tell our children to do their best in keeping them safe as well. More to follow on that. As we always do, why don't we stand for a Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have a couple of proclamations that we're going to get to in just a couple minutes, but as we always do, why don't we go around the dais and see what's on our minds. I'd like to, one of these times, go around the room, but there's entirely too many to do that right now and see what's on their minds. Plus, I don't know if I trust Colonel Hart back there and just get to know what's on his, but so Mr. Vigliotti, what do you have to say?
Thank you, Commissioner Rossi, and I will be as brief as I can this morning. I'll only touch on one thing, and that was the opportunity to tour the brand new East Middle School here in Westminster yesterday with some of my fellow commissioners. It is a beautiful school, and I think the students who attend that school in this coming year are going to be well served by having a school that is in the heart of their community. And to see the thought and consideration that was put into the school's construction and the features. And I think all that certainly is a testament to the I guess you would call it the love that the members of the Board of Education have for what they do, what the superintendent members of the school system themselves have for what they do. But I think it's also a testament as well to the working partnership that we have as the Board of Commissioners with the Board of Education, as well as with our delegates and our senators. I think it certainly goes to the heart of the matter with all of the decisions that we as a Board of Commissioners reach, that we have good working relationships with our partner agencies and with each other for that matter. We may not necessarily agree all the time on everything, but the fact that we're able to do so in a civil and cogent way, I think, is demonstrative of the seriousness with which we all take the work that we do. Again, I think it's incredibly important. Like this morning, we're going to be having a public hearing about a proposed ordinance on nuisance, and we're also going to be having a proclamation about overdose awareness. And the fact that we are, bringing these things up and the things that we're engaging in these things, again, is a testament to the seriousness with which we take the jobs that we have been trusted by the people of this county. And I think it also certainly is important to have those strong relationships with our partners throughout the community, because again, it's when everybody is able to advance forward in a way that is sound for the citizens, everybody ends up benefiting. And Commissioner, that's it from me this morning. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Caller.
Thank you, and I'll be quick. I'm normally quicker than who I'm behind because I use smaller words. But interesting. We mentioned already it's a holiday weekend coming up, and I wish everybody a great holiday weekend. Be safe in your travels. And school is starting next week. Some other counties have. I'm still very happy that Carroll County's kept the start date where they are. We were blessed this year. August wasn't that hot at the end, but I know some others had some bus issues and some other issues that, knock on wood, I hope we don't next week, but it's hard. It's very hard, and I appreciate what they do. I'll skip down to East Middle. I was scheduled to go on that tour. I ended up having a conflict that made it that I couldn't, and I really wish I could have. I did hear that I won't mention any names, but I know he listens to all these meetings. One of our delegates came into the school building wearing a hat, which violates the rules in the schools, and I think he was told to remove it. I wish I could have been there. Most importantly about East Middle, it's a great facility. It's going to be tough the next couple of months because you had to demo a building. It was a complicated project, and parking's, I think the county's worked with the school system on helping them solve some bus loop problems, and we're letting them trespass on our property to make things work. But one of the points I wanted to make about East Middle, it's so hard to control the money we spend. That project came in, I forget, 10, 12 million over budget. And if it hadn't been for the construction manager and the board that was in place at that time doing some serious value engineering, that project may not have happened. And it's like when you build something at home yourself. Unfortunately, I will probably always see the things we cut that we thought made that building a little better. But when steel went up, when other stuff went up, we had no choice. We had to value engineering, we had to cut, just like we have to do up here sometimes. And it hurts, it's hard. But for those that didn't see what we cut and only see what's there, it's a beautiful building. It's a great project, and I'm glad it worked out. Again, the school system had some cheaper options than demo and rebuild East Middle and its location. I'm also so glad that they chose to do that option. It's walkable, it helps the Boys and Girls Club. There's so many things good about that location, and I just think it's great. But I did want to make the point, a serious amount of money had to be cut, or that project probably wouldn't have happened, just because of timing and materials and all of that. And then I want to compliment them on getting it done, the construction manager, with delivery issues and ordering stuff sooner than they would have. It was complicated, but I think it's beautiful, and I wish I could have been there with you guys, but I'll live without seeing you yesterday. It's interesting, school's starting, but there's still some graduation parties, and it's so nice to see those kids moving on to their next step, whether it's military, whether it's work, whether it's college. It's neat to see that, and it's interesting that the graduation parties are still going on, but it's so great to see the people. A lot of people have been discussing, the state has announced that September 14th they're doing a meeting to explain the project at 91 and 140. And as all projects, there's some people that can't wait to see it happen. There's some people that wish it would never happen. All I want to say today is please attend that meeting. And like a lot of projects, I think some of the people were like, oh my gosh, I had no idea this was even going on. Well, I think the county, the state, and the citizens have been discussing this probably for 25 or 30 years, this particular intersection and what to do about it. I am concerned that it makes things safer, and it makes things safer without slowing things down for that intersection gets a lot of traffic, and I hope it's smooth, and we'll see what happens at the state meeting. I'm not sure the job's even funded yet, but I think they're saying it'll be completed by 2025, so maybe we'll hear something on the 14th that I'm not aware of. And some people have reached out to me prior to the meeting, and that's great, and I'm willing to share whatever I know about it, but I'm gonna learn more that night, hopefully. We've been doing some looking at the budget to try to prep ourselves for the upcoming budget, and it's a lot of information. It's hard. Lastly, the reason I didn't make it to East Middle, I was at a Board of Zoning Appeals meeting that was scheduled to be about 2 hours and took about 5. And I just want to mention it so I can compliment. We have a lot of citizens who serve on committees and boards, and I'm sure some of them were less happy than I was about being there till 5 o'clock. And I think the room was being used within an hour of then. But I just want to compliment the people we get that sign up to be on these boards and these committees and the work they do. And it's interesting, we talked about it, and some of you that have been active in any kind of competitive type things or like this, they have a hard decision to make. And when you leave the room, 50% of the people are smiling and 50% of the people are very depressed, and because a decision can't favor everybody, and they have some tough decisions, and I just appreciate what they do. On our website, I think it tells you how you can say you want to be on one of the committees, and please do so. We always need people, and I just wanted to compliment them all. And I won't say whether I left the room smiling or crying, but they did a good job. Thank you.
I appreciate it. I think East Middle President Marcia Herbert.
Even though I said this about everything I said, I do love Carroll County.
You do love Carroll
Okay,
County.
now go ahead. I didn't want to be
I'm just
criticized.
saying that Marcia Herbert said she attended East Middle. I think it was like 1946 or 44, somewhere around there. But I don't know. Actually, I got distracted by I got distracted by Mr. Stewart's blazer, and we'll see that in a little bit. But
Well,
that's a different story.
I thought I looked like a used car salesman today. I don't.
So
I did student teach at East Middle, and that was many years ago.
we will see the used car salesman jacket in just a little bit, as his face is turning as red as some of the checkers on his jacket. But Commissioner Gordon, what's in your mind?
Thank you. Just to echo a couple of the points of my colleagues, I'm not going to get into those topics, but I will say with school starting, please just be aware. Obviously, there'll be buses and kids out on the roads, but not just with school starting, just throughout the year as a whole. This past week, last Thursday, I was at the Historical Society. They're in the process of doing a strategic plan. They had invited myself and a number of other individuals from the community, and they're putting together some promotional materials and video, so I was happy to be a part of that. As everybody has mentioned yesterday, myself, Commissioner Vigliotti, and Commissioner Rothstein were at East Middle. It's an impressive building. Obviously, there's still a lot to be completed. They've got to finish what they're doing on the other side, not including the building, and there are a few little things with the building that was mentioned yesterday. It was nice as somebody that went to East Middle and not in 1946. It was nice to see the usage of some of the historic architecture and other pieces. For anybody that's curious about a variety of other items, I did inquire about the sundial, which I know a lot of people have had a curiosity about. That will be put, I believe, in the courtyard in the near future. So they're still working some things out, and there's still some things to accomplish there, finalizing this new school. But I do think it's a great opportunity to mix history with current day technology and opportunity, be it the band room, which was quite impressive, or the gym, or any of the other areas within the building. It's definitely something we can be proud of, that we're going to not only improve and have opportunity for kids today, but for years to come. And last but certainly not least, and I know some folks are aware of it and maybe not all, the Carroll County Youth Service Bureau has been closed for a number of weeks. They will be reopening on September 5th. The offices will finally be reopened. I know it's been a challenge for them, and I know it's been, a factor for everybody in the community, and I know they've worked around that to the best of their abilities, but very happy to see that they're reopened for not only them, but all that they serve. And that's all I have this morning. Thank you.
Thanks. That's an important message, because they do so much for our community. Commissioner Guerin.
Good morning, Carroll County. It's been mentioned a few times. It's the unofficial end of the summer coming up, and school will start again here shortly. And I want to remind everybody out there that you will start to see school buses on Tuesday morning, and to please heed those school buses. It's anecdotal, but it seems to me there's a lot worse drivers out there than there were before. And I know the police, you can't be everywhere. But for gosh sake, please be aware of the fact that you're going to have kids all over Carroll County on bus stops, crossing streets. So please beware. And again, I want to thank the county staff and the county folks that work for the government for a great summer. It was a busy summer with the recent storm, but it seemed like with a relatively new board, we didn't really take a break this summer. We, in fact, if anything, we're asking more questions and looking for more answers. So for that, I really appreciate it. And I want to tell everybody in the county government, I hope you enjoy your 3-day weekend, and thank you very much. I'll be brief, but you know, we're fortunate to live in Carroll County. If you're a Carroll County resident, we're fortunate to live here, and we take for granted freedoms that, believe it or not, some people in other counties don't have. If you want to cut down a tree in Carroll County, you can cut down your tree. If you want to use a gas-powered mower or blower, you can use it. If your kid wants to have a lemonade stand on the corner, the health department and the police aren't going to show up. Those things happen in other counties. Not these police, but those things do happen in other counties. So we're fortunate to be where we are, and we do have some inherent freedoms in Carroll County that others don't have. And that certainly doesn't end when it comes to parenting and when it comes to parental rights. So I want to thank the Carroll County Observer and Inform Carroll County again for pointing out that leading up to the school year starting this year, if people aren't paying attention, the Carroll County Public Schools has recently released a new form to parent that offers the choice of whether they wish to enroll their children in gender identity education. Gender identity education is a new state mandated curriculum that goes into effect for all middle and high school students for the upcoming academic year. So these forms, parents will be presented with 3 options, and the plan, I understand, is for all these forms to be emailed to you, the parents. But you'll be presented with 3 options. The first choice allows parents to select Carroll County Board of Education approved curriculum, which eliminates gender identity education, but it does cover traditional health, sex, and family life education topics. Additional options are provided that allow parents to either enroll their children in gender identity curriculum or opt out. But parents will have until October 1st to make their choice. So make sure you're paying attention to that. I know early in the school year there's a lot of emails that start flowing, and having 3 kids in the Carroll County Public School, I mean, there's so many emails and so many email accounts and passwords and usernames, it's impossible to follow. But if you're a parent or a grandparent or an uncle or aunt, keep an eye out for this email, because you're going to want to fill it out however you choose and get it back to the Carroll County Public School System on October 1st. This is a freedom that you have as Carroll County parents. Other parents in other counties in Maryland do not have this freedom, period. So take advantage of it and exercise it. Thank you.
And do you mind if I mention one thing on that? By state law, if you do not do it, you're in the state's program that has the gender identity. It is an opt-out. So if you're concerned about that, you need to fill out the paper. If you don't, you've defaulted back to what the state thinks we ought to do.
Thank you. I neglected to mention that. Thank you. That's a good point.
No, but
So make the decision for yourselves. Don't let someone else make it.
Okay, first, keeping in our thoughts and prayers those that have gone through the horrific hurricane down in Florida. It hit them like a sledgehammer with, 30 counties under state emergency, 30 plus counties. So, it's always interesting to me how news agencies can be so polarized until something like this happens, then they kind of come together for a day or two and talk about that incident. So whether it's CNN or Fox or any of the local stations, they all come together and say, look at the evil of the environment with the hurricane, or the shootings down in Jacksonville, or the shooting in University of North Carolina, that killed a professor, randomly. There's just so much challenges that we have, and these are things that, going to a grocery store you would think is a safe place to go, or going into a university is a safe place. then the hurricane itself just was really a challenge to the entire community. And I know Governor DeSantis addressed it, went back down to Florida as a leader, saying, hey, here are things that we are trying to do as far as the states of the emergency to care for those folks. But just keep them in mind as they're going through picking themselves up, along with the folks in Maui. I mean, that happened, it feels like forever ago. It's going to be a long, long time before they're all done and ready to pick themselves up. The other thing I just want to share is, and Chris, I think you have a picture. I attended last week the Fort Meade Alliance consortium or covenant signing, and I had the opportunity to sign on behalf of my colleagues in Carroll County to commit ourselves to Fort Meade community, which is a 60,000+ workforce that lives and or works and plays on Fort Meade, but 8% of them come out of Carroll County, 25% out of Howard, and 44 out of Anne Arundel. So we all stood there as government leaders, business leaders, community leaders in the state to commit ourselves in supporting our military community. I happen to be, and I'm blessed that I happen to be starting this covenant signing when I was in command, and it's kind of cool to have a legacy that keeps going like this. But it's a strong commitment that we make, and it's not just a signature on parchment, but it's something that should last. So I always say, you see somebody in red, blue, or green, the best things you could just say is thank you for the work they do selflessly. And just to finish that thought, as school, we all mentioned, are around the corner. You see administration, teachers, custodians, nurses, all those that make the schools as fabulous as they are in Carroll County. Just say thank you. It goes so far.
You're blessed.
We are so blessed. What I'd like to do is, I have a couple of proclamations. I want to flip the order, and Commissioner Gordon, why don't you talk about the Preparedness Month,
Sure.
and then we'll go into the other one.
So we have a proclamation, Carroll County Preparedness Month, September 2023. Whereas emergency preparedness is the shared responsibility of the entire nation, every jurisdiction, every community, every business, every family, and every individual in having a role in planning and preparing for emergencies and disasters of all kinds. And Carroll County Preparedness Month, in coordination with National Preparedness Month, provides an opportunity to highlight the important role of individuals as they prepare for emergencies in their homes, businesses, schools, and communities. This nationwide observance encourages all Americans to learn more about ways to prepare for all types of emergencies. And the U.S. Department of Homeland Security and Carroll County Department of Public Safety urge all Carroll County residents and business owners to take time during September of 2023 to create an emergency supply kit to make a family or business emergency plan, to remain informed about different threats and the appropriate response to each, and to get involved in preparing their community for emergencies. And the Board of Carroll County Commissioners recognizes the importance of preparing for potential emergencies and is proud to observe September 2023 with the appropriate preparedness activities. Now, therefore, we, the Board of Carroll County Commissioners, do hereby proclaim September 2023 as Preparedness Month in Carroll County and call upon the people of our county to join in supporting this observance, adopted the 31st day of August 2023, the Board of Carroll County Commissioners.
Okay, Valerie, if you can share some of your thoughts as both the leader and team member of Emergency Services.
Thank you, Commissioner, and thank you, Commissioners, for the recognition of National Preparedness Month and for the proclamation of Carroll County Preparedness Month. National Preparedness Month as a celebration nationally started out in 2004, and it is observed every September. They put it in September to honor September 11th and the incidents that occurred in 2001. But the whole idea about it is to raise awareness about the importance of being prepared for disasters and other emergencies. And, you know, like has been mentioned, I think, a couple times already, they can happen anytime. We saw that with the incident that we had in early August. Yes, we were expecting some severe storms possibly, but we definitely were not expecting the level of severe storm damage that we ended up experiencing. This year's campaign has a theme, as every year has a theme, and this year's theme is Take Control in 1, 2, 3. That's the actual title of it. But the campaign nationally is focused on preparing older adults for disasters. So we know that older adults can face greater risks when it comes to all sorts of different types of extreme weather events and emergencies that we've been facing lately. And especially, they live alone, possibly. They might be on low income. They might have a disability. They might live in a rural area. We definitely have folks that are elderly that live in rural areas in our county. So throughout the month of September, you know, we're trying to encourage individuals and families of all types, but especially the elderly population, to create an emergency supplies kit if they don't already have one, or update the one that they already have. You know, water, shelf-stable food, items for specific populations. So if you take medication on a day-to-day basis, you know, think about that for your emergency supplies kit. If you have electricity-dependent equipment, especially medical equipment, think about a backup plan for that. Items for your pets, items for young children, all of those things that, you know, your family uses on a day-to-day basis. Kind of put yourself in the role of what would happen if you didn't have access to them very quickly to be prepared. The hazards that we might have affect us, you know, severe storms, we've seen them, flooding, high winds, winter storms. Unfortunately, I won't use the S word. Because my friends in DPW will not be happy with me. But we have significant effects from those, and we can have significant effects from tropical weather. Atlantic hurricane season isn't over yet. So making preparations when threats are not imminent makes a huge difference when they do occur. Even a small amount of preparation can go a long way when you're responding to an emergency.
Fantastic. Yeah, I mean, it was just a very short time ago with those windstorms. And what, as Commissioner Kyler says, we're the shiny penny of the state because it was highlighted multiple times during MACO, the importance of how to act, react, and be proactive when storms like that hit. And Carroll County really stood out in its partnership with the Sheriff, State's Police, Westminster Police, and all the other jurisdictions with DPW, MDOT, SHA, all working together. You know, you guys, you told me you had 400 and how many calls in an hour?
I don't remember the exact number, but it was over 400.
Over 400, and typically you get around 15.
Depending on the day, but it's a significant difference. It was a significant jump.
To think, you know, the unsung heroes, those that aren't out there in the front, are you to initiate the action and your team, and that is huge, and it also was shared with the leadership across the jurisdictions and to the state, the importance of that. Another issue I just want to bring up, and then I'll open it up, is sometimes we don't look at the secondary, tertiary effects of storms like that. The hospital went on emergency generators for 6 hours. While they went on emergency generators for 6 hours, the humidity in the hospitals caused unsanitary situations, which created the tools that they would use in surgeries to now be unsanitized. So therefore, they could not do surgery for that amount of time, then sanitize that equipment. It wasn't even thought of, you know. Hey, they got power, emergency power, they're moving forward. But those were some of the effects that we learned. afterwards and say, okay, what do we do in that case? Now, maybe not we, you and I, or us, but what does the hospital do, in cases like that? Because that was a unseen effect of those storms that I learned afterwards. So.
And it's incumbent on all of the agencies, on us, on all of the partner agencies, and we all do it. We do an after-action review of every response so that we can learn from situations like that pop up that are reasonably unexpected. You think about you, as a part of your plan, you think about cascading effects, but a lot of the time there are ones that pop up that just you haven't imagined yet. So the after-action process allows us to come up with a plan for those things that we can put into place next time. And hopefully there never is a next time, but we'll be a little bit more prepared.
And like I said earlier about the men and women in red, blue, and green, it definitely goes to you. Just a simple thank you goes a long ways. The challenge is finding those to say thank you, except going into the offices. But, please pass that regard on to all of your team.
Absolutely. Will do.
They were phenomenal. But any thoughts, comments?
I'll certainly echo those sentiments as well, and echo Commissioner Rothstein's comments. Something I guess I'd like to ask or talk about very briefly. A couple years ago, I read this really fascinating book, and it was called American Dunkirk, and it was about the waterborne evacuation of Lower Manhattan on September 11th. And so, reading the book, it's the largest peacetime evacuation anywhere in world history. In a non-war zone, I should say. And so what the analysts did when they went through this book is they explained that at the beginning of the day, when they were starting to get people off of Manhattan, they tried they commandeered those giant water ferries, larger boats to try to evacuate people from Manhattan. But as the day wore on, they weren't doing it. They weren't getting fast enough. They weren't able to evacuate people fast enough. And so as the course of the day wore on, people started volunteering their small boats, just like happened at Dunkirk in 1940 during the Second World War. And what happened is at the beginning of the day, they tried to have some kind of command structure, right? Well, you guys are over on New York now, you guys are over in New Jersey, and you'll switch back and forth. But as the day wore on, that command structure broke down, but among the volunteers themselves, they started cooperating and coordinating with each other. And they were I think the estimate is like it was 350 to 400,000 people that volunteers were able to help evacuate from Manhattan on 9/11 and in the days after. And so the analysts in this book talk about that one of the surest ways of being prepared in the 21st century is to be able to accommodate volunteers. I know that looking over the list of road closures that we had during that storm, over 120 of them at one point, I forget the name of the road, but there was one road that was opened up by volunteers. And so I'm wondering if we already do, and if not, how we might be able to incorporate some way, some shape, or form of accommodating volunteers to assist with efforts when a crisis does happen.
That was Commissioner Kyler with his chainsaw. Actually, it was Rhonda with the chainsaw.
That's what I say. It wasn't my chainsaw.
Okay, Kenny was management.
Two other guys' chainsaws, but I just dragged. I was just a laborer. I was a laborer.
You always need a laborer.
Yep.
So, Commissioner, we do work with both the Maryland Voluntary Organizations Active in Disaster Organization, Maryland VOAD. We also have a Carroll County COAD, so County Organizations Active in Disaster. And all of the agencies, or the majority of them that are involved in both of those groups, are voluntary agencies. We actually have, I believe it's next week, and I'll look back at Jacob. Jacob, am I correct? Is it next week? We have a tabletop exercise scheduled with our lead for volunteer management and our emergency operations plan, which is the Department of Recreation and Parks, and the county COAD, and possibly a representative from Maryland VOAD, to talk about exactly that, about how we can best utilize voluntary agencies and volunteers in general when we have a large disaster. Because in general, there is no way that county government, state government, federal government personnel can accomplish all of the activity that needs to occur after a disaster to truly bring a community back to recovery, through recovery. We do rely on those voluntary agencies. So yes, we do work with them. There is a structure in place, and we're working to further strengthen that structure now.
Awesome. So I mean, again, I'll use Commissioner Kyler as an example here. If he shows up, like if he has a chainsaw and he says, "Hey, I can open up a road," who does he reach out to let you know that hey, I've got this road taken care of, or I have some buddies and we can go do X or do Y?
So in a perfect world, we would like to know about those capabilities before a disaster happens so that we can, make sure that everybody's in this, basically within a system, we understand the capabilities of each individual and each organization. But in general, if we have something very large like that, we will set up a capability where people can reach out to us, reach out to the Department of Recreation and Parks, and say there's a volunteer capability, and we can help link up the need with the capability.
Now, is that accessible now for people to go look at or to put information in and say, hey, I can, for the sake of argument, I have a spare generator that I can lend to the hospital. God forbid that kind of situation arises.
No, not right now. That's not that we don't. That's
Like
normally something that gets stood up on the fly.
So what about like maybe instituting some kind of like a volunteer bank or something, where if you are in this county and you have the capacity to help out, given exigent circumstances, you can.
A lot of the time, there are that capability exists within the voluntary organizations, and that's where we have a tendency to direct people, because the voluntary organizations already have a lot of what you're talking about, those capabilities with volunteer management set up. So it's a partnership amongst all of the agencies. So.
Awesome. Well, please do let me know how that meeting goes, because I'm certainly fascinated by this. And again,
Sure.
Thank you for all of your work, and to everybody who had any hand whatsoever in getting us through this storm. And Commissioner, that's it for me. Thank you.
Fantastic. Any other comments?
Yes, and everybody's kind of covered it all, but the one point I'd like to make, one of the reasons I'm happy and I love living in Carroll County, one of the points I've tried to make when state people congratulate us on how it went, our people in Carroll County, all of you, the citizens, they work together every day. It's not like we had to say, "Oh, hi, have I met you before?" It's everybody was there doing it because they're used to working together, and that's giant in today's world. And I've always said, and I tried to say that to some of them too, and I said that in my life in construction, when all the workers do their job, then my job's easy. When they don't do their job, my job's impossible. And so, again, it's all those people, including the citizens, that made that happen. And I know you guys were a big part of that, but I don't know if I have the patience to sit in a car for 4.5 hours and not step out and get electrocuted. And you guys kept that from happening, and those people had enough sense to listen. And it's always nice to have a little bit of luck along with it too. So thank you.
Yeah, we won't turn away any luck that comes our way.
That's right.
No,
Anything else?
absolutely not. I keep using the word blessed. I mean, we really were very fortunate, be it the folks on 140 out here in my district, or in which Commissioner Rothstein and I toured that night, and then the next morning with the governor, lieutenant governor, and their staff. To other issues, whether it be trees falling on homes, other issues. I know there was one injury that ended up luckily not being life-threatening. But I think the reality is we just all, as Commissioner Kyler mentioned, it's who we are. It's a culture thing here. We do, and I think, communities as a whole, I hope, try to look out for each other. But I think, for us, it's a component of who we are. And I know we've said this to you, and we've had some conversations. I know you and I know my colleagues and I have talked to a number of people, be it, our staff, be it, I was talking to Westminster Police Department, the city mayor. I just think it's incumbent on all of us to remember we're all in this together, whether it be a storm, whether it be any other issue that comes before us. And, at those moments, differences need to go out the window. It's not about those differences. It's who we are collaboratively and collectively. And all I can say to everybody, and I mean this sincerely, is just thank you.
Yeah, I thought Commissioner Vigliotti brought up an interesting point, and there are a lot of volunteer organizations out there like the Red Cross and places like that that you can donate to, but don't forget that there are volunteers at your local fire station right now as we speak, and if you want to help out an organization that's going to be there probably first, don't forget about your volunteers manning the 14 stations that we have in the county. So I wanted to throw that in there as
That's a
well.
very good point. Very good point, Commissioner.
Okay, why don't we get a picture for posterity, I suppose, and how long come up? That comes out of the magic door.
I really don't get car salesman out of that jacket.
No, it's just it's a jacket.
That jacket. You guys see that?
Cool, thank you.
Okay, let's move on to another proclamation and identification of what Carroll County does so well in times of adversity and challenging, issues. And this has to do with 2023 Overdose Awareness Day. And Commissioner Guerin, I believe you have the lead, and those that would like, why don't you come up to the table? Those that you would like, come on up to the table.
That's you, Tim. Come on, yeah,
Okay.
come on up.
And I think we'll be hearing from a few others as well. So, but please.
Thank you all for being here, and thank you for being patient. We're running a little behind. International Overdose Awareness Day is August 31st. International Overdose Awareness Day was initiated in 2001. You could imagine that we'd be where we are 22 years later. It hasn't gotten any better. But that's why you're here. You're working at that. International Overdose Awareness Day was initiated in 2001 to expand awareness, honor those individuals that we have lost to overdose, and acknowledge the grief of loved ones left behind. Overdose deaths shortened the lives of 53 people in Carroll County and 2,581 lives in our state last year. The 2023 International Overdose Awareness Day theme is recognizing those people who go unseen. We see you and acknowledge each person whose life has been irrevocably altered due to overdose. And we see that those we've lost, those who are grieving, those involved, community providers, and their pursuit of better care, those advocates in the recovery field who work tirelessly toward a better tomorrow for people who use drugs, those professional first responders who are often the difference between a life lost and a life saved, as well as those unintended first responders who've administered Noxolin to give someone a tomorrow. We stand firm in our resolve to do our part in preventing overdose death. We will work to remove stigma, not only in others, but in ourselves. We will treat people with compassion, not only because it is right, but also because we do not know their stories. We will work with our partners to ensure that services are available when people are ready for them. Therefore, we, the Board of Carroll County Commissioners, affirm and acknowledge the harm and hardship caused by drug overdose and do hereby proclaim Thursday, August 31st, 2023, as International Overdose Awareness Day. And thank you for being here.
Thank you. Please.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'll introduce myself first very, very briefly because obviously this day has absolutely nothing to do with me. But I'm here because my job one of my jobs at the health department is that I oversee the overdose fatality review team. So we select cases of folks that we lost in Carroll County, and we review the team with, we review the case with a multidisciplinary team, to include some folks in this room actually right now. And they're dedicated, amazing people, and we look at each case and look to see where we can improve things and where we can do better, and we try to make recommendations and just on any level. So that's the reason I'm sitting here today. I also oversee the naloxone program, but for today, for International Overdose Awareness Day, we placed 60 flags in front of the health department, which represents each life that we lost in the past 12 months. Obviously 60 is too many. And we absolutely want to work harder to decrease that, because I would like very much to come back here every year with smaller and smaller numbers. But it's also about honoring, as mentioned in the proclamation, people who go unseen, people who are unintended first responders, people like you and me, who do carry and administer naloxone. These are folks who are using with the person who overdoses, their family, mothers, fathers who are overdosing to their, administering naloxone to their children who are overdosing, and those folks are also, impacted, obviously, by this epidemic. So I will leave that. That's all I'm going to say for now. Thank you.
Okay.
My lovely, lovely friends.
One question. The drugs seem to be constantly changing. The drugs of choice, the drugs are coming in the country. Does everything, how more complicated does that make it to stop an overdose?
Unfortunately, more and more complicated. When fentanyl kind of came in around 2014-15, our overdoses increased substantially. It's a lot more powerful. It is deadlier, and we're losing more people as a result of that. Over the last few years, we're also seeing something called xylazine, which complicates things in that it is not an opioid, so naloxone won't reverse it. It is a sedative, so we're seeing folks who might be administered naloxone, but they're remaining unresponsive for a longer period of time. And it is also causing some very, very painful and sometimes debilitating wounds. They can result, if left untreated, they can result in amputations, unfortunately. So the more they put in the supply on the street, the worse I think things get.
What's this called?
Xylazine, Tranq, they also call it Tranq.
Thanks.
Wow. Any other thoughts, or do we hand it over to the wonderful in purple, Mr. Weber?
I love handing the mic over, so yes.
What's in your
I'm
mind?
Tim Weber. I work for the Carroll County State's Attorney's Office. Today is a very important day for me. Number one, being an overdose survivor. In October of 2003, I had my last overdose, and then almost a month later, I surrendered, engaged in recovery, got really involved, and I've spent from that day to this day working, trying to help others from not going down that same road. The one thing I will say is this county, and I've been around different counties, and I was in Pennsylvania for a year I took a leave and went up there to do some things. We are so united in this county, from you guys sitting up there to the collaboration with the law enforcement, the health department, the public schools, all of the agencies that work together is unheard of, the way we work together. I would tell them some of the stories about how this worked, even the role that I have at the State's Attorney's Office, how that had came into fruition was just unheard of to them. So I thank you guys. If it weren't for people carrying naloxone saved my life, and it let me be a father, it let me be a grandfather, a community member, and the person I am today. And if it weren't for people like Colonel Hart, and law enforcement carrying that's who saved my life. It wasn't Colonel Hart, but it was, and it was the same, different face, someone saved my life, and luckily that day I got up and walked into a place and changed. So I thank you guys for everything that you do for our county.
And a proud owner of a florist shop.
And, yes.
Just not saying, to give that free advertisement, but it's
Yes.
awesome.
Yes. That's why I match my purple so well.
And I'm so glad you talked about everybody here working together. I was blessed to be in district court a few times over the last 30 days or so, and one of the things that help with the judges and the state's attorneys that are on the other side that day, a lot of recovery people who have recovered themselves, they'll even show up in court and talk about a plan. This is a possible plan, instead of, don't just throw him in jail, let's try to help him. And that's giant. That is giant.
Yeah, it's very unique in our county. One of the things we do is with the court system helping to navigate people when it's feasible and it makes sense to get them to treatment, and they can go instead of going to jail, being monitored, and go to treatment. It's made a big change.
One of the best quotes, sticks with me all the time, is when a gentleman stands up there and says, I hit rock bottom, but thank goodness I hit rock bottom in Carroll County and got arrested in Carroll County, because here I am today. So, but yeah. Sir.
My name is Brian McCall. I'm also a person in long-term recovery. I'm the owner and founder of Mulligan Recovery Centers here in Carroll County. I lost my father to an overdose in 2007, about 6 months before I made the decision to get clean. Exactly what you said. I'm incredibly grateful to have gotten clean in Carroll County and to be in recovery in Carroll County, to be of service to the men and women that are seeking recovery, long-term recovery. The resources here are absolutely phenomenal. The men and women that are on the front lines, that it said it in what you had read, with the compassion, is so key. Right, there's all the things, the naloxone, the treatment centers, the judges and the courts and stuff, but if the community provides compassion and understanding to those that are struggling, which is what Carroll County does, it makes it so much easier for them to be able to recover and change their life. I was incarcerated when my father died to an overdose. I never got to say goodbye. I showed up at the funeral. I was the only person that was there, because of where his life had gone from addiction. And to see the men and the women with the health department, with the state's attorney, in so many organizations, showing up, just like you were saying with the volunteers in the storms. This is a storm, and we have so many people that are willing to show up and volunteer and give their effort, and not just effort, but the compassion and love and the understanding. It's absolutely beautiful in Carroll County, and I'm grateful to have pushed my meeting to show up, because that's what we do today. That's what we do in recovery, to just show our faces and show that we are real people that are in recovery, are human beings that are able to make incredible changes, not just in our communities, but in the states and in the country, really, and to save so many people. And so I'm just grateful to be here. I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak on behalf of the recovery community. I'm grateful that you guys are proclaiming Recovery Month. It's a beautiful thing.
Really well said. Thank you. So there are others that are here. Want to share your thoughts?
We're gonna.
And
Back-
while you're
backbenchers,
coming forward, I also want to thank, you guys have talked about how blessed we are in Carroll County. I want to thank our sheriff's department too. The person I was with spent 30 to 60 days in our detention center, and if you got to be in a detention center, I'm glad it was that one.
Oh yeah.
So a true gentleman would let the lady have a seat, but that's okay.
It's okay.
Just saying, but
Personal friend. It's not the first time.
you kick him out. Okay.
So my name is Jennifer Grubel, and I am also somebody who is in long-term recovery. I am a peer recovery specialist at the Carroll County Health Department. I am somebody who works with primarily the homeless community out here. with, mental health and or substance abuse. So what I do day to day is I connect, people struggling with, different ailments to resources that we have. I am somebody who grew up in Miami, Florida. I was sent here in 2018 to Carroll County to get treatment. Big distance away. I was here for a couple years where I had met, a lot of people in the recovery field, and I went back home to Miami, Florida, to where this community here is just so, there's something about it to where my family just didn't understand why I wanted to be back here. I went back to Miami to get my son because I am somebody who, after overdose after overdose, after relapse, I lost a lot of things. I was somebody who was homeless, which is why the homeless community is so close and dear to my heart. That is something that I had struggled with the substance abuse. Being here and having the opportunity to be one of these people who kind of, helps our community, not just in my personal life, but also in my professional life, to me is like, you've said it's a blessing. It took me a really long time to find my calling. And it's something that they say, if you love what you do, you never have to work a day in your life. And this is the only career that is stuck for me. Because it's very dear to my heart, and I'm somebody who comes from a long line of law enforcement, so the first responders are very close. We work with a lot of them because of the homeless outreach committee that I'm a part of. We connect each other, very, very connected to each other, so I'm very supportive and very, lucky that we have such great first responders that, just like touching on what Brian said was, that compassion. And then, what Adrian was saying, some people that are, unintended first responders, could be some little old lady who's at the grocery store who just forgot she took too many Percocets, and you're there to help little grandma, So, I just want to say thank you, and I'm very, lucky to be blessed, or very lucky to be part of, being here, being able to voice my opinion and being able to, see the proclamation of Overdose Awareness Day. So, thanks, guys.
Absolutely.
We're grateful to have you.
Before you jump up, I'm so thankful you mentioned mental health and drug abuse, because they're way more connected than a lot of people think they are. And you're working on both, because very often if you don't fix one, you can't fix the other.
Right.
So thank you.
And we are grateful to have you as a part of our community. We're grateful to have all of you as a part of our community. You are part of what makes who we are. And I'm grateful to God that all of you are not only getting through these things, but turning it into something incredibly positive by what you're doing for others now. And that is a beautiful thing. So God bless you guys for that.
I'll tell you, that was very profound. Who we are is who we are. I like that. So sorry. Anyone else? Anyone?
I'm going to toss just an extra thing because while you guys were doing the previous proclamation, I realized that you unknowingly teed us up pretty well to throw out there that we are working on kind of I guess a campaign, if you will, to encourage people to upgrade their first aid kit. So Valerie mentioned emergency kits, and I really think everyone should carry naloxone in their emergency kit. If you don't have it, you can call the health department and we will get it for you. But any one of us could become that unintended first responder. It's what saves people's lives.
I appreciate that, because I mentioned MACO, Maryland Association of Counties, and they were handing out naloxone. There were the boxes.
We'll give it away like candy, y'all.
Yeah, so I grabbed a couple boxes. I know you were with me, Rhonda did as well. It's one of those, it's sad you have to have it. It's very fortunate that we do have it. I looked up xylazine, and I thought I recognized it. It's partner with ketamine, which is a horse tranquilizer.
Yep, it's a veterinary
And-
sedative.
right.
Yep.
And having horses, I'm aware. And I never knew that that's what they were using now, is Alzine now, in addition to the ketamine. So, horrible. But I guess important that we're identifying it and we're recognizing it. So if you recognize it, you can hopefully come up with hope in the course of action for me, come up with a solution on how to deal with it. I think education is what you're doing best. So, any other thoughts, comments? Okay, why don't we get a happy snap on everybody come on up. Why don't we stay in the back? We have all of them in the front.
Yeah,
and it makes us look skinnier.
we have a rule here. If you don't talk, you have to be in the picture, right?
That's what I told us.
This is Darnell.
And if you want to take your badges off, feel free. Just hold on to them.
Yeah, moving next to Ed like you like him.
Right, yeah. Oh, my gosh.
Meow.
That's all right. I would say it's
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thanks, Tim.
God bless you. God bless you.
We'll get there somewhere. Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
God bless you, brother.
Thank you.
Okay. See ya.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Let's move right into a public hearing regarding nuisance call ordinance. And I'd like to kick this off with handing it over to Mr. Tim Burke for a short presentation. I believe Mr. Stewart and whoever else will be having a conversation. Why don't you come on up to the table?
You know, I'm going to say, Commissioner Rothstein, I like his jacket. It's very summery. I wish I could pull something like that off.
Okay, these are things we don't need to hear right now from you guys, but that's all right.
I'll let the jacket be loud instead of me this time.
Seriously?
Good morning, Commissioners. This is a public hearing on a proposed excessive police nuisance call ordinance. And this public hearing was advertised in the Carroll County Times on the 17th and the 24th of August. It has been posted on your county's website
It was the jacket.
for several weeks. And the purpose of today's public hearing is to elicit any public comment on the proposed ordinance, which has been posted and advertised. As you said, we have some guests with us. We have Major Stem from the Sheriff's Office and Michael Stewart from the State's Attorney's Office. And we did receive one public nuisance call already about a jacket. So we're already off to a
I do
flying
know, I
start
believe
here.
we have somebody on the phone, but that'll come in a minute, and hopefully it won't be about the jacket. But gentlemen, why don't you share with us
And
your
before,
thoughts?
before you share, I want to mention something because of your favorite topic, social media. You used the word excessive,
Yes.
and that's the intention of this. I'm sure you guys were going to focus on that anyway, but I'm tired of seeing posts, oh, the police don't want to do their jobs. Well, you're still going to go when you're called, and you just don't want to be abused. And that's a big difference between, I think people in the community are concerned, if I call you twice this month, you're liable to hit me with this. Well, no, you're not. You know, that's not the intention. It's excessive.
We've got a quick 5 slides to roll right into this. The first slide, the background of this ordinance is there's a small number of properties in Carroll County that generate a whole lot of police calls for disturbances. And some of the disturbances are alcoholic beverage violations, disturbing the peace violations, disorderly conduct violations, theft, noise violations, prostitution, other types of disturbances. And what we're trying to do with this ordinance is to address these excessive police calls and, more importantly, to encourage property owners and business owners to be proactive and to take steps to avoid these things. Right now, they simply pick up the phone and call the police after the fact. Second slide, please.
The first, it's several phases to this process. The first, if a police officer is dispatched to a property and a disturbance has been found to occur in the following number during a specific 12-month period, they're given a warning. If you've got a non-resident or mixed use and you get to 5 calls, or you've got a residence and you get 3 calls within a 12-month period, or a multifamily residential property with 6 calls in a 12-month period, you're going to get a visit from a deputy, and he or she is going to say, you're on the wrong track here. You're halfway through to being placed on probation, which you don't want to be. So please take some steps to reduce these number of calls. Be proactive. If they don't listen to the deputy, or they're unable to get things under control, third slide, please. They're going to be placed on what's called probationary status. And that means if you're a non-residential use or a mixed use, you get 10 calls during the 12-month period. If you're a residential use, you get 5 calls, or a multifamily residential use, you get 12 calls. You're placed on probation. What that means is, in the next slide, please, at your next violation, while you're on probationary status, your first call that's found to be founded or warranted by the deputy is a $500 civil citation. The second call, and this is all during this 12-month period, second call, if it's founded to be a violation, is $750, and the third call within that 12-month period is you're issued a civil citation in the amount of $1,000. And the final slide, please. There's some exemptions under the law, and they're listed there, pretty self-explanatory. We certainly don't want to discourage any calls about crimes in progress or where personal safety is involved. We want to make sure that mental health and medical emergencies don't count towards this ordinance. They don't count as calls for disturbances. Same with domestic violences incidents. They wouldn't count towards the count. Trespass violations, if you've got a property and some guy keeps coming back and forth, even though you've taken all the steps you can to keep him off, that's not going to count. And any other calls that you're required to make under the federal or state law would not count towards this scheme leading up to possible violations. Do we have any questions of staff before we open it up to the public?
Well, do either one of you have any added?
So, as Mr. Burke mentioned and Commissioner Kyler briefly touched on, from a law enforcement standpoint, this is not us sitting in an office looking at a spreadsheet and going out and writing fines to folks in the community. We want to utilize this as a tool to try and reduce police service calls, use it as a tool to be able to work with our community members and identify that there may be a problem at their residence, at their business, at a location in the county where we have excessive police calls for service. It is a tool for us to be able to integrate with the community, work with business owners, landlords, tenants, etc., to try and reduce police calls for service. I don't want the Board of Commissioners or anybody in the public to think that this is simply a money-making scheme for anybody, or that we as law enforcement are going to be simply putting the hammer down on folks. We want to utilize this as, again, a tool to be able to work with the community, and when we speak with them, when we go out and talk with them once they go on probationary status, to be able to give them ideas on how they can work with our office, with outside entities, to reduce crime and incidences at their location. So I just wanted to briefly touch on that, because I know that Mr. Burke had mentioned something to Commissioner Kyler. You had briefly touched on it.
And Major Stem, this is not a checklist where, oops, you hit 5. You have discretion.
Absolutely not. We wrote the ordinance so it does give the police department discretion to decide what a qualifying call is or is not. I'll give you a quick example. If somebody goes into a CVS and sticks a gun in the cashier's face and demands money, that obviously is a threat to public safety, along with a theft. Theft is one of the qualifying calls. So we would not go in there and say, well, So, if somebody came in and robbed you, we're going to mark this down as a qualifying call. That certainly is not the intent. We don't want to discourage folks from calling 911. We don't want anybody to think that they can't call 911 for any reason. Obviously, we want people to feel safe and know that they can call us if they need something. So I just don't want the intent of the ordinance to be misled.
And to be absolutely clear, so everybody who's listening knows, you will always respond to a call. Always respond.
Absolutely. We will always respond to a call.
And my understanding of this is, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is part of it is that you have certain property owners or business owners who are utilizing law enforcement not to actually try to adjudicate the crime, but because they want to write it off on their taxes or because they see it's a convenient way for them to get on to the next financial step. You guys want to go out and deal with the crime. You don't want to go out there for no reason.
There are businesses in the county that will call us after the fact with no evidentiary value in place to what we assume is just to get a tax write-off, yes.
Or an insurance claim or something.
For some reason.
But again, just for anybody who's listening to the public, any of our men and women in uniform will always respond to a call. Always.
Absolutely.
That will not change.
Absolutely.
Any comments, Mr. Stewart?
Yes, just the impetus behind this is there was a gap. I mean, there's a criminal statute if you keep a house that has CDS, drugs, or paraphernalia. There's a provision in the real property law that lets you close down houses of prostitution and drug houses, but this is one that fell through the cracks. And I will say this, we hope it doesn't get used at all, because we hope that in other jurisdictions, there's an educational component, letting them know that it's there. You have these steps where the deputy goes out and the first thing they're going to do is, with the warning, is instruct people, well, this is the law. So you know the law, and that, if there are steps you can take instead of try to externalize your loss prevention to the sheriff, which essentially some people do, or if you just have issues and it can be cleared up. So, you look at other jurisdictions, it's rarely used. The educational component usually is enough for most good citizens who want to comply. But this is just another tool. We hope we never have to use it. And of course, it has nothing to do with revenue, has nothing to do with responding in need. It's just something that we felt there was a gap, and nothing that we saw in the books would accommodate it. So,
Any questions?
Just a comment. And this being written and developed was a collaboration. It wasn't, it wasn't one group that did it. It was a collaboration, county attorney, you guys, and input from everybody.
It was a team effort, and one of the things we wanted to make sure was that law enforcement, the person who have to enforce it where the rubber met the road, was happy with the way it was written. And Major Stem was instrumental in helping us craft a discretion into it, where it wasn't one of a bingo chart where you're, scorekeeping like at a baseball game. So, he was instrumental as, the representative in that room. So, like I said, everyone was consulted from county through state's attorney's office to sheriff's office.
So you went from 5-syllable words down to 2.
Well, I'm not Commissioner Bigliotti, so, I can't be, was it polysyllabic?
Polysyllabic, yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, okay.
And to Commissioner Kyler's comment there, obviously it was a collaborative option to put this together. But then the other thing, just to mention to my colleagues and the public that's listening or watching, this was also a topic at MACO, which of course is the county organization that we just had a meeting with about 2 weeks ago. This was a topic. We had the Attorney General of Maryland. We had a number of folks from law enforcement around the state, as well as some major retailers talking about the severity of this nationwide. Now, I realize some will go, well, that's nationwide, that's not Carroll County. And you're right, it's not. But we also don't want it to become that. So, it's to Mr. Stewart's point, it's a tool we hope we never use, but it's probably better to have the option than not.
And I think there's several municipalities, counties throughout the state that are watching seeing what we do and how it works for us
Yes.
in Carroll County. So we could be trendsetters, possibly.
Not always a good thing.
In this case, are the slides and ordinance, proposed ordinance available to the public?
Yes, they're up on the website.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments?
Yes, sir. I
From
want
the
to
dais.
thank Commissioner Gordon and you, Mr. Stewart, and you, Major Stem, and all the others for working on this. I think this is a step in the right direction. And other, like you mentioned, other counties, attorneys, and other municipalities are talking about this. They're talking about this problem, but they're not yet quite talking about a solution yet. So this is a way of us getting in front of what we know is just par for the course, unfortunately, in the region we live in. So thank you to all of you.
Are there any comments in the audience? And I expect you filled out a salmon or colored card in the back? Have you?
Not aware of that.
I apologize. Why don't you, there's cards in the back.
That's all right. If they could just give us their name and address and make their comments.
Well, I was going to say,
Is
we
that all
have
right?
somebody, I think, a caller as well.
Okay.
Is that true, Chris?
Yes, we have a caller on the line. Would you like to begin with Ms.
Yeah, why don't we
Barrett?
start with the caller? Why don't you grab the cards, and then we'll go from there. So, caller, if you can, share with us your
I got
name, address, and go from there.
Yes, Ms. Barrett, could you please use *6 to unmute? You'll have 3 minutes for your public comment. *6 to unmute, please, Ms. Barrett. We can't unmute you. If you're having trouble, hang up and please call in, back in.
Is that what they did?
No, she's still on the line.
Okay.
She may have put us on hold. She's been waiting since 9 o'clock, so
Oh, okay.
let's move on.
Okay. Yeah, whoever would like to speak first,
We're husband and wife, so.
feel free.
Double deal.
So that means she's speaking first.
You said it, Carol.
My husband's a gentleman, so he's letting me speak first.
I apologize if you can go to the microphone and share with us your name, where you reside.
Christina Lawrence, in Tawnytown, Maryland. My husband and I, this day, are first-year residents. We've made it to the first year in Carroll County, and we're very grateful to be here. So,
Congratulations.
thank you. We read this ordinance, and we kind of feel, we could be wrong because we're new to the county. This is my first time ever speaking to a county council, so bear with me. We kind of feel that what was proposed in the language, we're clear on the intent, thank you, the intent, but the way it was written, forgive me, that doesn't mean to insult anyone. It seems like it's open-ended as to who will be targeted. Our concern is it's not direct enough that I think it's definition 4, where it says disturbance. It seems to target, in our opinion, it seems to target law-abiding citizens and businesses versus the violators. Our concern is that if we're calling the police due to a noisy neighbor, we don't want to be targeted with a nuisance call. That's our concern. And the way it's written, we don't feel that it's clear that we would not be targeted. or not targeted, but we would not fall into this.
If I could maybe just add to my name is John Lawrence. Just adding to what my wife has said, we're fully in support of the intent of this ordinance, no doubt about it. What wasn't clear when we read about the section that says responsibility for qualifying calls, it isn't clear that the type of businesses that are mentioned are discriminated versus anyone. Say, for example, down the street, someone has a party and someone gets drunk and passes out in my yard. So that's not a safety concern, but it's a nuisance to me, so I call the police. When I read the determination of a qualifying call, it sounds to me like that will count as one call against my property, even though I'm happy to prosecute the person. I have security measures to keep this from happening, and yet when I read this, it says, I've called, so you are responding to a disturbance on my property. It's resulted in a dispatch of an officer, and the officer determines that this has been a disturbance. It doesn't say anything about, Mr. Lawrence refused to prosecute or anything like that. So where am I going wrong? I'm not an attorney, so.
That's, the last, number 10 on the last page says an exemption would be the response has nothing to do with the property in question. That, you're describing someone who came from someone else's property, a party, and slept and fell asleep in your front yard. That violation has nothing to do with your property.
Right.
And if we need to clarify that, we will. But we're not here to attempt to address people making the calls. It's the source of the calls, where the calls originate from. So yes, you should call if somebody's falling asleep on your front lawn, and we'll ask where did they come from, and you'll say that there's a party going on down the street, and that person would get a warning and you can.
Also, if I could address just one of the other issues that they brought up, the ordinance does not supersede the criminal law article. So if in fact the example you gave was there's a noisy neighbor and you call 911, the deputy, officer, trooper responding would still appropriately cite, arrest, etc., the violator, and then that qualifying call would then also be calculated. But I wanted to make it clear that the ordinance does not supersede any criminal enforcement that may be taken against a violator.
Right. No, we just, I think, and we could be wrong on this, but it just, when we read it, it just seemed like it was almost like it was a little too generalized. It made us feel, as law-abiding citizens, that we would be held accountable if we placed a call, and that's the only thing that, if we, again, like my husband said, if we placed a call and we were willing to, give you testimony as to what occurred, we're not the ones creating the noise infraction, and we just didn't want to be. That's all.
Okay.
Thanks for that clarification. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Okay, no, I appreciate it, and, appreciate sharing that, and I think, if we need clarification, and it will work towards it.
Certainly.
But, Chris, do we have the caller?
Yes, caller, we're going to try with you again. If you could please hit *6 on your phone, and we'd like to give you an opportunity for public comment on this item. Caller on the line. Well, apparently she's not with us or having trouble with her phone. She had the opportunity to call back in, so.
Is it Diane Barrett? Is that who you're trying to reach?
That is correct. That is correct.
So Diane Barrett, if you can hit *6?
If the board chooses to follow the recommended motion, you'll be closing the public
Right.
hearing, but leaving the record open for 10 days.
Right.
So if Ms. Barrett is not able to
Right.
speak, today, she's welcome to email or mail her comments to the board for consideration when you take it up.
Which is a fair way of doing things and moving things along. So,
Just as a, and anyone's, of course, welcome to
Yeah,
do
we
that,
still
but-
time
But
to-
specifically,
Still
since
time
she
to
seems-
no, I
she's trying.
appreciate it. Okay, so with all that shared, what I do need is, at this point, a motion to bring the public hearing to a conclusion and keep the record open for 10 days.
Motion to conclude the public hearing and keep the record open for 10 calendar days.
Second.
From today's date.
From today's date.
And I got a second on that. Any discussion?
And I do appreciate that Mr. Lawrence, is it, for coming in. It's a good perspective from a new resident. So I think it's something that we probably need to, I think, mention that we can try to tighten that up a little bit or make some additional clarification. That might be
Yeah, no, I
welcome.
absolutely agree. And I appreciate the insight you're providing. I mean, because it's so much easier to work through something as it's being developed than after the fact and say, oh, I didn't know about this. So I do appreciate that. But Art, yeah.
And that was my question, but between the three of you, are you comfortable with the number of calls, the probation, the various discretions you have, that they're not going to get burned for calling you? Are you comfortable, or do you think we need to tweak something?
Fortunately for you, Commissioner Kyler, you weren't in any of the meetings where we bantered back and forth about the number of qualifying calls. So it changed about a half a dozen times. So we are, yes, as a committee, comfortable with that.
Okay.
And thanks for coming.
Okay, any further discussion, questions? Seeing here none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And fortunately, I was not in any of those meetings. Thank you.
Now that jacket's leaving, we don't have to dim the lights.
We have a special sale, Labor Day.
Okay, let's move on to land preservation, using lump sum payment option for 531 Stone Road LLC property.
Morning, everybody.
Minster.
Morning. Morning.
See you down there now.
We have it right here.
Okay.
You can go slideshow up there. See what's a slideshow? Yeah.
So we're here for consideration of a project for the Ag Preservation Program, and we'll turn it over to Program Manager J.P. Smith to talk you through the project.
Good morning, Commissioners. Good to be here with you today.
Morning.
We appreciate your time. I just wanted to mention, we're still at the same total of 78,715 acres currently. We do have another settlement scheduled for a couple weeks from now. Today, we're before you for a final approval of county program. This is one of our remainder properties located at 531 Stone Road, LLC. It's 107 acres. There's no lot rights to retire. Fair market value of the land only was $412,120.58. The cost to the county will be $288,484.41, which is $2,696.12 per acre. Here's the farm just south of Stone Road. Here's how the farm lays with another block of easement property. Picture of the farm going down the driveway.
Beautiful.
It is a very nice, well-kept property. Another picture of the property. So like I said, today we're before you for a final approval of 531 Stone Road LLC property. 107 acres, no lot rights to retire. Fair market value of the land only, $412,120.58. Had a cost to the county of $288,484.41.
What are the name of the cows?
I don't know, but they probably have names.
I bet you they do. Okay.
Larry, Moe, and Curly.
There you go.
Motion to exercise an option to purchase an easement on the 531 Stone Road LLC property in the amount of $288,484.41.
Is it 41 or 58? I'm looking at it, 'cause it's two different numbers here. Oh, I'm sorry, I was looking at it wrong. We're good. Second.
I have a motion, I have a second. Any discussion on this? Seeing here none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, let's talk about the
Thank you, Commissioners.
exercise option to purchase, final approval of proposed critical farms. For,
That is correct.
The Spencer property.
So today we're here for final approval for the Raymond Neal Spencer property located at 2932 Sykesville Road. It's 87.51 acres. We're retiring 9 lot rights and is in District 4. The appraised value of the property is $1,312,700, and the purchase price was $900,000. The cost of the county is $472,500, which is 52% of the purchase price, which was lower than the appraised value. Here's where the farm sits along Route 32. And here's how it fits in with other properties. We do have other properties available in the area to be,
Commissioner Guerin, did you?
I move the Board of Commissioners exercise the option to purchase the Raymond Neal Spencer property through the Critical Farms program in the amount of $472,500.
Second.
I got a motion, I got a second. Any discussion on this? Seeing here none, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Very much, thank you.
Okay, let's talk about Carroll Transit Systems, Carroll Transit System holidays. Ladies?
Good morning, good morning.
Morning.
All right. I'm here this morning with Crystal Weinbrenner, the Executive Director of Ride With Us, and we are here this morning to get your approval to open transit on a few select holidays. The holidays we are referring to would be Martin Luther King, President's Day, Juneteenth, Columbus Day, and Veterans Day. We are proposing to start this on January 1st. So Columbus Day and Veterans Day this year, we would still be closed. We start on January 1st. The first one would be Martin Luther King. Currently, Carroll Transit follows the county schedule for holidays. However, these 5 have come up in some conversations at the Transit Advisory Council and during some public forums and just from public feedback. By remaining open on these days, CTS would be able to better serve the general public to get to and from work, appointments, the grocery store. Those type of trips have made up about 41% of our trips last fiscal year. Being open on those holidays would also benefit our partner organizations such as ARC. They currently follow our holiday schedule, so they are closed on these days and their clients can't get to them or get to their employment opportunities that they have. And DDA makes up about 38% of our demand response as a whole, so being open would certainly help them and would help their caregivers if they are not able to be home those days. Now, we can't tell you what ridership is going to be because they're holidays and it's a different, day of the week. But we do expect it to be less than an average day, but we do expect there to be ridership. Our average trips per day for last fiscal year on demand response was 320 and 92 on Trailblazer. So we are requesting to open both services, have full service open for all 5 holidays. And based on our revenue service hours, which is what we pay our contractor on, the total operating cost of opening 5 days would be about $45,000. Now, that is still under our total contract, so there would be no additional county funds necessary. The contract would still cover those.
Are there additional federal holidays that are still not going to be covered, where it doesn't follow the Carroll County government schedule?
What do you mean?
Well, you picked 5 days that...
They would still be closed on the other days that we are closed.
There are 12 federal holidays, I believe. And
That's correct. There's 12 now.
So you're picking 5 out of the 12?
Correct.
The other ones being Christmas.
Christmas,
Thanksgiving.
Labor Day, Memorial Day, and 4th of July. I think
Is there
that
a
rounds them
reason
out.
why we're
New
picking
Year's
just the 5 and not the 7 others? Or?
These are just a more retail day. There's more things that are open on these holidays. You think of Christmas and Thanksgiving, most of the county is closed, so there wouldn't be anybody on the bus. But these holidays seem to be the most open, and less people have off those kind of days.
They're also the days that our organizations like ARC and Penmar would be open, if not for us being closed, so that they just don't have transportation to get their folks to and from. But they are not closed in general. They're just closed based on our schedule.
Memorial Day.
Memorial Day, we would still be closed Good Friday, Memorial Day, Labor Day, 4th of July, not in that order, obviously, Thanksgiving, and Christmas.
And New Year's Day.
And New Year's Day, sorry.
I mean, there's a lot of things open still, Memorial Day, Labor Day.
Thinking doctor's offices and stuff like that.
They're open.
Doctor's office doesn't have
No,
memorial.
my doctor's not open next week.
No, and so on our medical assistance side of transportation,
Maybe not. I
all
don't
of
know.
them are closed. So that also kind of went into some of that. Most medical facilities are closed on the holidays that we're not suggesting, or we're suggesting to remain closed. And that's just based on the information from our other contract providing medical assistance trips. We only pick up dialysis clients that day. On those days, rather.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with this. I'm just thinking, if we're picking and choosing 5 or 6, are there others that should be put into this? And if the answer is no, the answer is no. I just,
Well, based on your guys' experience, do you think you'd get as many riders on those other holidays as you expect to get on this?
No, mainly because they are the bigger holidays, and there are so many facilities and things closed. And with Christmas and Thanksgiving specifically, there's nothing open.
Yeah.
So, or New Year's Day.
Yeah, I definitely see those. I'm just, okay. I mean, I'm always one for, if we buy one vehicle, why aren't we buying 3? If we're choosing 5 days.
I mean, there's always a possibility that when we start with these 5, that our organizations come back to us and say, hey, it'd be really great if you did these 2. And then we would be able to give you data. Like, these 5 holidays actually had ridership, maybe these would too. But I think right now, we would not open on those.
And just come back to us if it...
Yeah, I mean, if it comes up or if we get requests for it, we'll certainly keep track of all those things.
Awesome.
So just out of curiosity, so you're, if we were to add any additional, not that we're necessarily going to do that right this second, but if we were, is there any possibility that any of those would still fit within the current budget moving forward?
Yes, we still have a little bit of room.
Okay.
I don't know that every holiday that we're closed would
No,
fit,
I understand.
but 1 or 2 more I think would still be okay.
Okay.
And we're going to have a new contract in a year and a half anyway, so
Okay.
that might be a new time to start that, even if we wanted to.
I think it's a good idea to test this out. And I'm glad you brought this forward, because obviously, it is a little tricky sometimes to get around in Carroll County if you don't have access to a vehicle. Right. So I think it definitely warrants us attempting this and kind of seeing where we go. So I appreciate you bringing us up.
Thank you.
May I make a suggestion? One that I think the county is fairly unique in being closed on is Good Friday. That might, if you wanted to add one more, that would be one that I think many businesses are open, including doctor's offices and things. I mean, I don't know if that's come up in your conversations, ladies, or not, but
I'm going to defer to you on that one. That I don't know.
As far as ridership is concerned, Good Friday is another one. Basically, any holiday that's around a religious event is generally, most of the doctor's offices are closed or have shortened hours. And so the only ones that, actually, no, we don't, the 7 that we would, or the 8 that we would still ask to remain closed for are the ones that we have only dialysis clients those days. And government services are closed, obviously, so there's no housing, Access Carroll, things like that are closed.
And if the data suggests otherwise, just come back to us. And
Right.
Yeah, exactly. On another topic, but I still believe appropriate, not necessarily public transportation, but transportation. Is there a way to identify those that are on public transportation that if they had their own transportation would be able to do what's necessary? There's the program Vehicles for Change, which is a nonprofit. We have available to us in Carroll County multiple vehicles. And it seems like a challenge to give away vehicles because of the criteria associated with the vehicles. They need to be able to be insured. They need to have work, X amount a week, and then they basically sell the vehicle at a very, very, very low cost, a couple $100 type thing. If a rider, and I don't want to take business away from public transportation, but one of the major reasons of low income and people in challenging because they don't have their own transportation. I don't know if that's something we can look at, through a poll, through some sort of analysis. I don't know. I'm trying to help citizen services, social services come up with how do we identify folks that could benefit from their own vehicle, and I feel that some using public transportation may, even if it's one or two, I don't care. Or if the answer is no, then the answer is no, but at least it's something that we're looking towards.
So I would definitely agree that citizen services is definitely the correct push for finding those people that would be most benefiting from that. But we actually are putting out a survey for the month of September. The Transit Advisory Council has decided that they wanted to do that. And I don't think our rider survey says anything about it, but our community survey about why you don't use transit does have a question on it that you do have your own car. So we might be able to pull a little bit of information from that as far as, why you're not using it or why you are using it because you can't drive yourself.
Right.
To be able to give you a little bit of data. It's anonymous, so I wouldn't be able to give you names, but I'd be able to give you an idea of this is how many people ride our service because they don't have their own vehicle.
Yeah, I think, just having a conversation with citizen services, saying, hey, it's being brought up now. I'm always looking out, okay, we have opportunity in the community to serve the community. It's an opportunity that I don't believe we're taking full advantage of. Fortunately, we do have the transportation services, and it's very successful, and that's why you're coming here to increase it. So I'm like, that's awesome. How does that now, potentially dovetail into opportunity for people standing on their own 2 feet because they can have their own vehicle?
Right.
So yeah, if you can further that conversation with Celine or with team.
Yeah,
over
we
there.
can certainly work with them, and we could put advertisements on the buses or something like that, just to let people know that that's an option, if that's something that they could possibly do. Yeah.
'Cause we have funding for it, we have the attention towards it. So okay.
And I don't know if anybody does it here, and I don't know if they still do it. The mission in Frederick, similar to the rescue mission here. They have a partner who, if you graduate from the program, will sell you a used car at like half price. You have to sign a deal that you're not going to sell it for 3 years and blah, 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 and they check on you and all of that. So it does happen in other jurisdictions.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody here does it or not.
Well, and that's what we have that benefit. Money was given to Vehicles for Change, earmarked for Carroll County, a handful of vehicles. I'm working with the Vehicles for Change, and he came back to me and says, I'm trying to identify Carroll Countyans.
Yeah.
So
do it.
yeah, so this may be a way through a survey or something, but just eyes and ears open for potential. I appreciate that. Okay. This sounds great. I appreciate the diligence in doing this, and look forward to hearing some of the numbers. And if we want to open it up for additional days, I think we all agree that's a potential. Do I need a motion to move forward?
Motion to approve the Department of Public Works Carroll Transit System to remain open and provide transit services on the 5 requested holidays.
Second.
I have a motion second. Any further discussion? Appreciate your time. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, something I always like talking about, change orders. Extend
I can see the
construction-
joy in your posture.
Gentlemen.
Extend
Good morning.
construction inspection services for Maryland 851 down in Sykesville. Something that has been going on for multiple years now.
I'll speak to that in a few seconds.
Okay.
The Office of Procurement, in cooperation with the Bureau of Utilities, requests your approval of a change order to Whitman Reichert and Associates, LLP, in the amount of $30,170. This will be for a 43-day extension of the construction inspection services for the Sykesville, Maryland 851 Main Street Water and Sewer Main Improvements Project. The cost of these improvements is within the adopted budget, and no additional funds should be necessary.
So, gentlemen, as you are fully aware, the Main Street Water and Sewer Main Improvement Project is well underway. The progress rate of the contractor has been impeded due to several unexpected issues, including the partial excavation of an unknown and previously abandoned gasoline storage tank. There have been several additional water service connections that we've identified that had to be dealt with. There were several sewer main lining issues and weather delays. Now, with all that in mind, my project manager, Larry Bloom, has done an incredible job on this project. There have been so many issues that he's encountered and dealt with in a positive manner. Just want to shout out to him real quick. The project schedule does remain well ahead of the projected end of calendar year completion date. But the actual duration of work will extend beyond the original 220 days that were part of the contract. So as work started on this project and the problems were identified, we projected that the completion date would be the end of this calendar year. So we still stay well ahead of that schedule. The construction aspects of the duration of work are currently being resolved with our contractor. And this item, as Carrie said, is for the extension of construction inspection services for 43 days through late September. And that is keying in on our completion date for our part of the Main Street project. So we should be finished by about that time parameter. We are working on the punch list within the next several days. And the presence of a full-time inspector is required on site to ensure the quality installation and to resolve any day-to-day construction matters and questions. Any questions for me?
I'll tell you, a lot of work's being done. And, Sykesville, with partnership with you and our county and State Highway, really shows. To minimize the disruption happening down there, there is disruption, but they're still doing their farmers market. The stores are still open. It's still vibrant as far as the small stores or the stores on Main Street. It's just taking a long time, and but it's not slowing down Mayor Link and all her activities, which is very impressive, again, for her strong leadership and council leadership in keeping those activities going, because it'd be easy to say no when something like this is happening. But if it has to be done, it has to be done. I'll move that the Board of Commissioners approve a change order to WRA in the amount of $30,170 for a 43-day extension of construction inspection services for Sykesville, Maryland 851 Main Street Water and Sewer Main Improvements Project.
Second.
I have a motion, I have a second. Any discussion on this? Seeing here none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you very much.
Okay, let's talk about sinkhole mitigation at Medford and Avondale? Avondale?
Avondale?
Avondale. Roads, Avondale.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
So we do have a few slides to present for you this morning. So again, but before I get started, Doug Brown, Deputy Director, Department of Public Works. Zach Neal to my right. He is our on-staff pro hydrologist with Department of Land and Resource Management. Maureen Dunn with Procurement. Ryan Nowicki with Budget. Kathy Verts and Jim Cook with Roads Operations. This has been exactly this team since we were first made aware about the issue that we're bringing before you today. So our goal today is to brief you on what we have going on at Medford and Avondale Roads. This is an area that is out near the Martin Marietta Quarry. I would let you know that we have been in communication with Martin Marietta representatives. They were invited today. We're not able to make it, but they are well aware, and we do keep them briefed on this matter, and again, do work with them cooperatively in that. So, with that, just going to fly down. We want to be respectful of your time. We know we only have 10 minutes. We'll go as fast or as slow as you like, but our intent is to move along in these slides unless you stop us, and then we will have a point for any of your questions and all of your questions at the end.
Somebody told you 5 minutes more than that 5 minutes you have.
Oh, okay. Sorry, sir. 5 minutes. Talk fast, Zach.
It's all good. Teasing.
Okay, Zach.
All right. Good morning, Commissioners. I will roll through this, as Doug said, as quick as I can. I just want to give you a little tiny bit of background, and this, I promise, is the only slide I'm really going to talk to you about. I'm sure all of you have experienced what we'll call, or what the news will call, sinkholes in some way, shape, or form in each of your respective districts. Really, at the county level, we break those into two categories. There's what we call the infrastructure sinkholes, and those are going to be things associated with pipelines that burst, old buried debris. They can occur anywhere in the county. Today, what we're really going to focus on, though, are our karst-related sinkholes. This is going to be associated with carbonate rock in the county. It underlays about 2.5% of the county, and this is primarily going to be in Commissioner Bigliotti's district and Commissioner Gordon's districts. The very short version here, in that 2.5%, about 1% is in something that we would consider very sinkhole prone. This is predominantly going to be the Wakefield Marble. It's a very active sinkhole area. It's always been active for sinkholes. We can see them as far back as 1937. So if you gentlemen can look at the slide real quick, just the very simple diagram there. There's two components to these systems. There is the underlying bedrock, which has been shaped over hundreds of thousands to millions of years. You get this widening of fractures and the formation of conduits in the bedrock itself. Where we actually have our issue is in the overburden, that clay that's sitting over the marble. And what happens is we get these cover collapse sinkholes. So soil slowly starts to ravel down into openings in the bedrock itself, and you get this void that slowly migrates its way up towards the surface, and eventually the soil can no longer hold the strength and catastrophically collapses. Sometimes there's a little bit of warning. We'll see things like pavement breaking, things of that nature. Other times, one day goes by and these features can fall in.
All right. So just to give you an idea, this is the overview of Medford and Avondale Roads areas. And the pink dots that you see on there are historically recorded sinkholes that we have already dealt with in that area. And if you're looking at this, you're probably asking yourself why we haven't had to come to you before. And the fact is that most of the sinkholes that we experience are handled by Zach as our professional on staff, the Bureau of Roads Operations, and typically Martin Marietta will provide us with material that may be needed to fill those sinkholes or excavate them if it's in the dewatering or area of influence around that. In this case, the case that we're talking to you about today, we do not have the necessary equipment or, frankly, the drilling expertise on staff that we needed to make that repair. So with that history being said, we'll talk to you a little bit about now the current event. And Zach's going to give you a little bit of a brief on how this all started, which is the slide as you're looking on your left.
Sure. In short, on the left, we were doing an inspection and early exploratory excavation, rather, Further down what is the asphalt line swale along Medford Road, there was a hole that had opened up that we wanted to check out, do our due diligence on, make sure it wasn't a more significant feature. And we came across this, this would have been late March. It's a very early breach in the pavement right at the outlet of a wing wall or an RCP, 54-inch RCP at the intersection of Medford and Avondale Road, so it's very close to both roadways. And if you're thinking about that diagram, then while we would call this an early collapse indicator, think about the soils that have been raveling. They must have come close to the surface. That void space migrated very close to the surface, and that's what you're seeing there on the right. The moment we had permission to cut the pavement to explore this, you can see the large open void that's formed underneath the wing wall there.
Mm-hmm. So also, Commissioners, I'll point out at this time, we routinely, and that's what is in your packet, you have both a memorandum going way back to 1994 and a sinkhole report from 95. Our team, our roads operations team, routinely all over the county keep their eyes out for anything that might be suspicious, and then anything that is suspicious, Zach puts on his list, and we do regular and routine monitoring, which, as you heard him earlier, that's why we were out there that day when we came across this starting of a hole.
And this is just a quick continuation of those events. So that same feature you were looking at there, we had excavated out just to explore if it was something we could fix in-house. We found very soft, loose, wet soils down to about 11 feet. And at this point, we determined we couldn't dig any further without putting our infrastructure at significant risks. So we refilled it with clay, compacted it, did everything we could to try to keep water up, and knew that we had to bring in an expert to do a very specialized type of repair that Doug's going to talk about called compaction grouting, but we'll get into that a little bit later.
Sure. And so we came back, we all met the team, which includes everybody I introduced, and we knew we had an issue. Why do we have an issue? This area is in the area of a business you all know as PFG, so it sees 24/7, 365 heavy truck traffic. In addition, our infrastructure, which is that pipe that you see going under the road, had already begun to shift. And in fact, we now know that there is significant cracking and shifting between 2 and 4 inches in that pipe. So it's actually broken underneath, meaning that any water that was supposed to be coming through that pipe is now potentially contributing to additional broader sinkholes. So it's a public safety issue and seen as an emergency response. So we worked with procurement and have begun to our emergency response at that point immediately. This area also, if you're familiar, has a railroad track that runs probably less than 100 yards from the site that we're working on right now. Zach, a little bit of history about this.
Yeah, sure. This is actually a rather unfortunate incident I'm sure most people in the room are familiar with, and for those who haven't, this was a long time ago. This was 1994. Sinkhole fatalities across the country are relatively rare, despite the fact that there are numerous sinkholes in numerous states. Unfortunately, we have had one here in Carroll County. It occurred in April of 1994. It was on Maryland Route 31. These pictures are going to be after an excavation was done to do a permanent repair on the road. And just to give you guys an idea of how much, what the size of these can be, like the cost associated with fixing them, by today's dollars, this feature would have cost about $1.4 million to mitigate.
So that is, just to bring it around, and I'm going to show this. This was back before the use of compaction grouting as much as it is used today. So what happened is, once this failed, they got to the point of a $1.4 million repair. What we've done on the emergency basis, while still not cheap, is try to prevent this type of thing from occurrence, and is exactly why we are treating it as we are today and here before you. Couple other pictures.
Sure. The diagrams are nice. We can't always bring you guys out there. You are always more than welcome to come out anytime we have a sinkhole if you're interested to see what a repair looks like. These are actually two very recent photos. Both are going to be very close to our active project site here. The photo on the left is a sinkhole that opened up in that same swale, maybe 115 feet from where we were actively mitigating these sinkholes. This sinkhole was 18 feet in diameter, 35 feet deep, and what you're looking at here is we were talking about those fractures that widen as water moves through them through time. Again, not in our lifetime. This is what those features look like underground. The same thing on the right. This is that very uneven bedrock surface, and you can see just how variable things are from foot to foot. To give you a sense of scale, between the top and the bottom of that rock there, that's about 20 vertical feet in that photo.
Okay. So our next is going to be about 1.5 minutes. It's a very simple animated video from Keller North America, but I thought for you all and our viewing audience, it would allow them to see what has gone on in order to prevent a catastrophic failure. I'm hoping it works here. There we go. So again, no sound meant to be with this. This is just that. Now, you'll know that we noticed the surface depression. It wasn't as big as that. But what they're showing here is they would then smooth that out. Our compaction grouting, which is done by drill, comes in, which is what we have done here. And then they do what is referred to as cap grouting, or they stabilize the surface below the surface. And then injecting up again brings more stabilization. The problem is, is that well, not necessarily the problem. The issue is that when you find these voids, they really don't know exactly how much grout any void will take until they get down in there and begin to fill it. And we don't know the end results of the grout yet. We do have a rough idea on cost today, but we'll be back before you within the next week or so with a final cost, seeking your approval, unfortunately, after the event, because that's the only way we can deal with this in order to fix the problem before it got worse on that final one. So again, this is just showing that they attack it from three things, and as you can see at the bottom, they have completely filled the void and blocked where the water table was, so they have capped it off and brought stabilization to the surface, and that's where we go with that one. So with that, that's all the slides that we had to present to you. Again, we have the whole team here for questions and answers, and anything that we can do to answer anything that you may have.
No, I appreciate it. A lot of information. Zach, are you a hydrogeologist or an engineer by trade, or?
Hydrogeologist.
Okay.
So if our citizens happen to see something, who do they get in touch with if they happen to notice something unusual or out of the ordinary?
So they come in a lot of ways. We do get calls throughout the year. Some will come in through the 911 center. They'll call. They'll generally get reported to the Department of Public Works. We have a standard operating procedure that if they call roads operations, we also work and coordinate with Zach and Land and Resource Management. So anywhere you call, so you can call Land and Resource Management, roads operations. If you make us aware of it, we will all communicate together and get out to investigate. And we have the ability, we had just recently worked together on a 24/7 response policy. Some of our material that we need, we try to stock in-house. Again, if it is within the zone of influence for Martin Marietta, they have been very good to work with us. So if we need large fill or other large equipment to bring it out, they will do that, and then we will work to make sure it's safe. Again, I want to bring to your attention, in this case, as we've explored it, there actually are 4 areas out there but only 2 we consider to be emergency because they're directly under the road. The other 2 are actually areas that are mowed and maintained by roads operations. We've worked with roads operations. We have defined what those areas are, and we're going to keep our people off of them. Those areas we will likely be able to go back with and handle the old school way. Big tools, big track hoe, which we've got, or a grade awl, where we can go down, look for the throat of the sinkhole, and then repair it coming up to the surface. As Zach mentioned earlier, that picture that you saw from just 100 feet down, that was handled by county staff and Zach being on site. We've also handled those right here in the ARC of Carroll County in Westminster. We had another one where the ARC contacted us. We were able to go out, manage the sinkhole that was directly adjacent to their parking lot, and deal with that in an in-house maneuver, which then is just time and material. This one, like I said, unfortunately, we do not have the equipment necessary to handle this. In fact, most places don't. They end up contracting with the geotechnical firms to come in and handle it from there.
Thank you.
Now, the geotechnical firm for now, this is just investigation, this is just the first step, or does this include the repair?
So the investigation was under the earmark, and we did that first. The reason that we're coming before you is as soon as we found out at the end of July what the investigation showed, we were extremely concerned and asked them to mobilize. This was the first date that we could get before you to let you know about this emergency repair, and I don't have a final number, but I do have a tentative number, and frankly, we are probably looking in the $180,000 to $190,000 range at this point. We have worked, again, with procurement and within budget, but to my knowledge, and Zach, you can correct me if I'm wrong, the repair or their drill work on the 2 sites we told them was completed yesterday afternoon?
Yep.
So we are there. We are just waiting on the final wrap, which you would be familiar with, sir, and others may be. We're waiting on their grout counts. So we need to know what their grout counts are so that they can tabulate their final bill. The most expensive and unknown thing when I speak of grout is that we had one hole that I believe took, and the best way I can put it is 7 full concrete trucks of grout to fill. That's how big the void was under the road.
Wow.
Now, keep in mind, I just mentioned a big number. I'm not going to allude that to anybody, which was that 180 to 190,000, but it is much cheaper than 1.4 million if we go to collapse, lose our infrastructure, have any injuries or anything else happen. So we're trying to stay ahead of it. But certainly a broader discussion that this just may be the tip of what we need to come back and discuss with you all in the future about looking at these areas and making sure that we are where we need to be.
And you mentioned 1994 sinkhole in Route 31. Was that the one that the van ran into?
It is.
That's correct.
So
And
that's
very
what
near.
happens if you don't.
That is, yes. I personally, in my career prior to here, dealt with a fatality in Frederick as well. As Zach said, they are rare, but unfortunately when these things happen, typically a sinkhole will open at night in the darkness and someone drives off into a large area. It is, you all have been out there, I'm sure. There's no secret that right in this area we're working, tractor trailers park on both sides of that overnight. And when you're talking only 15 feet of clay, which we know now from drilling that might have been above it, this could have happened at any time.
And what happens when it is a state highway? Then there's coordination between county, state, and Martin Marietta or whoever happens to own the quarry at that time?
Correct. Yep. And we do coordinate together, and in fact, Zach is rolled in on. The state is actually working another large hole right now. It isn't in the roadway, but they are already working and coordinating at this moment between all 3 agencies.
Thank you.
Good questions. Any other questions, comments? A lot of information. Appreciate all that you're doing.
Thank you very
gentlemen.
much.
Thank you. And we'll be back before you. And again, we appreciate your time and attention today. Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Have a good day.
Okay, let's talk about microwave radio replacement and upgrades.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. The Office of Procurement, in cooperation with the Department of Public Safety, requests your approval to upgrade the microwave network portion of the county's Astro 25 public safety radio system with Motorola Solutions Incorporated in the amount of $1,825,283. The upgrade will include new Nokia microwave network equipment along with necessary engineering, testing, project management, site development, and installation. Motorola Solutions was awarded a State of Maryland contract. This amount is approved in the fiscal year 24 budget and no additional funds should be required.
Okay. Good morning, Commissioners, once again.
Good morning again.
Since its initial creation, the Carroll County's digital 800 megahertz public safety radio system has been continuously updated to make sure that the system remains current. The current microwave network that is an essential component of the radio system is nearing end of life and does require replacement. This is the second phase of the two-phase public safety radio circuit and microwave network replacement project that is in the CIP. The first phase was completed in fiscal year '23. That provided funding for the required conversion of T1 circuits to Ethernet circuits in order to be able to continue to maintain the updates for the system. This second phase this year will provide funding for replacement of the microwave network components of the radio system. They're nearing end of life and support, and we do need to replace them. The proposed project does include all of the necessary engineering, testing, project management, site development, installation of the microwave radios, the power supplies, and the batteries at the 12 sites that constitute the microwave portion of the system. The anticipated project completion is July of 2024, and the proposed cost is significantly under the budgeted amount, but one thing I would say is the proposed cost is based on no issues being found with the current microwave radio network that is supporting our radio system. Part of the process here is we have to do basically line of sight for the microwave network. If there's any trees in the way, for example, that are causing any degradation in the signal, they need to be taken care of. That's not reflected in this proposal. There's no way that it can be until the evaluation is done of the system. This cost is without any of those possible contingencies included. The current system does work with no identified issues, so this is in a lot of ways a proactive measure, but it is a necessary measure. We do need to stay ahead of technology as much as we can and be proactive to ensure that the system continues to operate as effectively as it needs to for all of the agencies that use it every day.
That makes perfect sense.
What are you doing with the old system?
The old radios, that's actually a very good question.
Well,
I will
thank
need
you.
to find out for sure. They are no longer supported. So, we can certainly work to identify any possible cost recovery if there is any. I honestly don't know the true answer to that question.
I would think it would be significant.
The cost of the radios themselves for this particular project is about $500,000. So I don't know what the true value is of the 10-year-old microwave radios right now that are going to be coming out, but that is something that we will investigate to make sure that we're getting any cost recovery that we possibly can.
Absolutely.
Motion to approve the upgrade services for the Astro 25 radio system to Motorola Solutions Incorporated in the amount of $1,825,283.
Second.
I have a motion. Go, please.
Do you know offhand how much this is under budget?
The budget amount is $2.8 million.
Okay. Wow.
She gets to keep the million she's saving.
Yeah. So how
She's
did?
very motivated because
how did
Valerie
you
gets
do
to keep
that?
the million
Yeah.
she's saving.
Yes. No, that was, I thought for sure
That would be
Commissioner
great.
Rothstein would say something. But
I know. So how?
he's in shock. He's in
How
shock.
did you do that? I mean,
The original number that was utilized to develop the project was a budget number from Motorola. And once they have an opportunity to actually to create the more detailed proposal, that's when the actual number comes in for the proposal.
I love spending less. I love spending other people's money even better, but I do like to spend less.
And the first phase came in under budget as well.
Fantastic. Okay. Any other discussion?
Just remember that next time when she comes in and something's over budget.
We'll try to avoid that. We'll absolutely try to avoid that.
Seeing here none and rudely interrupted by our CAO. No, I'm kidding. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
Let's talk about Adobe subscription. A contract renewal. Ryan, you're 1 for 1. Don't mess it up.
I'll try not to. That number threw me off a little bit last time. The Office of Procurement, in cooperation with the Department of Technology Services, requests your approval to award the renewal of the Adobe subscriptions to Dell in the amount of $27,419.04. This purchase is being made through the Maryland State contract. This purchase amount is within the adopted budget and no additional funds should be necessary.
What's made through the COTS contract, off the shelf?
You told me not to mess it up, but I went about it anyways. I'm sorry.
Well, because that's an important part of
Yes,
this,
sir.
is COTS.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Go ahead.
Good morning. Adobe is used throughout the county to edit, organize, and sign documents. It is also the standard product used for commonly shared fill-in forms.
I use it in my own employment. Adobe programs, they're phenomenal, and they do a lot.
This is a annual subscription. There's no multi-year potential.
There's no savings with a multi-year contract. We checked on that. Yeah.
Yeah, they're not too nice about that.
Pardon me?
They're not too nice about that. I always do the same thing. I always figure.
I think we're down to like one or two companies now that'll do multi-year with any kind of savings. They've just all kind of dried up. But we do check every time, Commissioner.
No, I appreciate it. Okay.
Motion to award the renewal of the Adobe subscriptions to Dell in the amount of $27,419.04.
Second.
I got a motion, I got a second. Any discussion on this one? Seeing here none, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good job, Ryan. Okay, now, let's talk about CC Visa reimbursement for one time for diesel fuel expenditures incurred during fiscal year ·23.
Good morning to you both.
Good morning.
We've still got 20 minutes left till noon.
Okay.
Good morning. In FY '23, there were multiple fluctuations in diesel fuel costs that were unanticipated within the approved CC Visa budget and the volunteer fire company allocations for fuel. These additional costs are delineated by volunteer fire companies individually as listed on your sheet. The total amount is $66,096.23. As of the beginning of FY '24, we have centralized all fuel allocation and purchasing under the Department of Fire and EMS. So in other words, the companies are still receiving allotments, but we are now managing the funding of that. And what that's allowed us to do is a lot of these costs that were incurred will now be offset because we've combined and gotten lower prices. We've also introduced the county's Fuel Man card system where applicable, and we're working directly with fleet management on a regular basis to try to reel in on these costs. But a lot of these, given the price of crude oil, were unforeseeable, and the totals are provided, and Susan is here and has documentation from each of the companies. So I'll turn it over to Susan if you have any questions.
Good morning, gentlemen. I do have copies. Tim, if I could ask you to pass it around. This is from the specific companies themselves to document their shortfall during the budget because of the fact that the fuel costs were not anywhere near what they thought they were going to be when we initially did our budget.
So if I may ask,
Yes, sir.
and again, if maybe I'm just missing something, what accounts for Manchester coming in so low versus the other companies?
It's usually the volume of the calls, volume of the vehicles that are being used, and whether or not they projected better than everybody else.
Yep, gotcha. Thank you very much.
So is it fair to say that these are the only companies that are in this situation? We're not
Yes,
gonna-
correct.
Okay.
Yes.
So we're not waiting to get information
Yes,
from
sir.
other, okay. Thank you.
This one's yours.
Motion to approve the reimbursement of the additional funds as noted expended beyond the FY23 budget by member companies of CC Visa.
Second.
I have a motion, I have a second. Any discussion on this? Seeing here none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much,
Thank you very much.
And ladies.
Okay. Chris, do we have anybody on the phone?
No, sir, we do not.
Okay. What's this request for public hearing ordinance change? I have this in my book regarding chapter 158.
It says September 7th is the date on that.
It should not be here?
No, remember the board asked for information in advance for any upcoming public hearings. That's why that's in.
Okay.
So I'm sharing that.
No, it's just for your
Just for
information if you
us.
have questions. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you, Roberta.
Anything for open admin, Mr. Burke?
No, sir.
We may have a public comment.
What's that?
I don't know if the,
Is there anybody here? Do you have a open public comment, ma'am? Anybody here for a public?
yes, I mean,
No?
oh,
No, okay. That's right. Wanda, why don't you come on up?
Good morning, Wanda. How are you today?
Morning. Okay, Monday, September 4th, offices are closed. Once again, reminder, schools open September 5th. Please be aware of the laws that are governed in keeping our children safe as they go on and off the buses. You know, it can be sometimes complicated, so ensure we understand them and keep our kids safe. Also, kids riding to school, bicycling to school as well. And ask parents to continue to share with their children how to ensure that they're safe. And best of luck to all kids entering into their grades on Tuesday. Wednesday is a opioid senior policy group. Commissioner Guerin will be attending at the health department. On Thursday, we go into open session. Let's see, prior to Carol, the library is going to be coming in to share some news and thoughts and a couple proclamations. Then we go into group flexible spending account administration for employees of Carroll County government. Ms. Bixler from HR come in and talk to us. She'll stay in here, talk about group dental benefits for employees and retirees of Carroll County government. And we're going to keep her here to talk about FY24 health and dental insurance employee contribution dates. Zoning text amendment regarding drug treatment facilities. Mr. Hine will be navigating us through that. Then Mr. Ripper will be talking about status of broadband internet services and its expansion in Carroll County. We'll keep him in the hot seat to talk about geographic information systems, software maintenance and support. And then we'll have Ms. Carroll talk about port-in-place playground surfacing maintenance at the rec and parks. And then we'll talk about purchasing a Raptor RP1 radar units. Isn't a raptor like a prehistoric animal or something? You know, with long, gnarly nails and teeth?
Exactly.
Okay, I don't know. And then we'll talk about some purchasing potentially 7 Ford F-Series trucks. And then a John Deere 850L is in Lima crawler dozer. I expect pictures to be shown with these as well. Friday, we have nothing scheduled. Saturday is Out of the Darkness Suicide Prevention walk down Woodbine. Commissioner Garin is scheduled to attend. And then Sunday, I have the podcast. On Monday, September 11th, there'll be a memorial ceremony for 9/11 held at the PSTC, right?
The training center?
And I know I will be attending, or any of my other colleagues attending that.
I'll be in attendance.
Is that-
I'll be there.
So Commissioner Gordon,
What time is that? It's
8.
8
8
o'clock.
on Monday?
o'clock,
And that's down at the,
PSTC, the.
yeah,
pub-
I'll go.
Okay. Okay, so, and Kenny, you're going?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's September 11th, 8 a.m.
I was asked to share some remarks, and then I know we're all going to be laying a wreath during that ceremony. At 3 p.m., there's a Transit Advisory Council. Commissioner Kyler is participating in. On Tuesday at 7 p.m., there's the Ag Board meeting on the 12th that I will be attending. On Wednesday the 13th, Senior On the Go Expo. 1, 2, 3, 4. All 5 of us will be in attendance.
All on the go.
It's a great event.
And
I mean,
I'm
a
not,
lot of work put into it, and a really, really good event.
yeah, I'm not sure what I can do. I do not want to miss the Opioid Prevention Coalition meeting.
The expo is an all-day event.
Yeah,
So you don't have to be.
so I probably won't
Yeah.
be there till noon, maybe.
Yeah, and yeah.
Generally, at least one board member does some opening remarks.
At the expo?
At 9.
I don't know. We'll ask
haven't heard
Celine.
from Celine about that
Yeah.
yet. So, unless Wanda, do you know? I mean,
Because I would think it would be Commissioner Kyler, being as old as he is, but
but
maybe
usually
not.
it's just brief. It's like
Yeah.
2 minutes,
Well,
and the board.
He would only speak brief because he is old and he wouldn't remember, but no.
Oh my gosh.
I'm just saying.
Teleprompter that I can't read.
Anyway, we'll find out and we'll figure that one out. So Celine, as I'm sure you're listening,
Trip
you're.
over a sandbag.
Oh, I've done that. Torn my pants. Oh, it's horrible. In Kosovo. Oh, yeah. No.
It's still morning. Keep going.
I know. Ag Board meeting. Wait, I did that already. Senior Expo, Opioid, Farm Museum, Board meeting. Typically, it's Commissioner Vigliotti's attending that. Again, the expo is an all day, so you can go from one.
Yeah, I intend to be at both, so I'll
Right.
probably,
Yeah.
yeah, I'll figure it out. But yeah, I'll be at both.
Thursday, September 14th, we have open session, Environmental Advisory Council work plan. Come to us, and then talk about a grant approval to submit an application acceptance of award for the federal 2023 Continuum of Care from DCS. Request for public hearing and grant approval to develop community development, development block grant, CDBG. Again, it'll be round 2 from DCS. And right now, that's all we have scheduled for that morning. At 6 p.m., we have the State Highway Administration that will be talking about highways 140 and 91. And it was asked by outsiders if we were all aware of this, and we are all aware of this, work. And I believe Commissioner Kyler will be attending that. I don't know if others will be attending that as well.
Wanda, you can add me to that for attending.
Friday, nothing scheduled on the 15th or 16th. On Saturday, Commissioner Vigliotti has the podcast on Sunday. There's a horse show ride for responders down at the Equestrian Center in Mount Airy. Commissioner Guerin will be attending. How'd I do, Wanda? Okay?
Yes.
What I need is,
Motion to adjourn and go into close.
okay, I'll handle that.
Or land acquisition.
For land acquisition. Finish that part.
Oh, I'm so moved.
Okay. Is there a second on that?
Second.
Sounds good. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.